250 million for Liverpool, 180 million for Arsenal if you include Gyökeres. City with 130, Chelsea you'd expect to spend more, 140 as well. Now what's interesting is Mark wrote about this, and what I thought was a bit weird, Mark, and I don't know if you were forced to write this by the editors, but there was a sentence within this which made me raise my eyebrows, because I thought, really, Mark, do you really believe it?
What is it?
Which was the 2025-26 season has the potential to become the most competitive title race since the Premier League began in 1992-93. Considering the drama that we've seen in the past with those rivalries, even like City and Liverpool, you go back to Manchester United and Arsenal, those sort of things, to say that this is going to be so competitive.
Oh, you want him to be negative before the season's even started? Last year was a home run for Liverpool.
He can answer his own question. Doesn't need you jumping in.
No, I know, but
doesn't need you. I just don't. I don't believe you. I suppose, Mark, is my point.
Okay. Well, you raised the point there, the rivalries. Well, there were just 2-horse races. I think this year could be a 4-horse. It's definitely a 3-horse race. And I think if Chelsea can build on their Club World Cup winning and keep players fit, there could be 4 teams going for the title. Now, I know we've said that in the past, but I think on this occasion there are 3 very strong teams, and Chelsea could be as strong. So that's what I'm saying. It could be a 4-horse race rather than a 2-horse race. Look, Liverpool-Man City rivalry was great. Man United-Arsenal rivalry was great, but it was just those 2 teams. To have 4 teams going for it, I think Chelsea are the outsider in this, but Chelsea have got the potential to challenge if they can. You know, they've got a 1-11 now. We saw that in the Club World Cup, and if they can add a couple of players, or if Enzo Maresca can find a way to get more out of the players that he's got, I think Chelsea could challenge. So that's what I mean about being competitive, that we could have 4 teams going for the title race all the way through to April and May.
I mean, City would still worry me a little bit, not going forward defensively, and Nouri coming in. I mean, good footballer.
This ain't going to be a 4-horse race. We're not going to be sat on the final day of the season with all 4 teams in contention.
No, I mean, it's unlikely we're sat here on the final day of the season and we haven't got a winner, but you just... I think there is potential for it to be more exciting than it was last year, which it wasn't very, as I say, it was a home run for Liverpool from sort of Christmas onwards. They did all the hard graft. But I do agree, I think City still have some answers defensively that the others two big cheeses don't have, Liverpool and Arsenal. I think they're pretty solid defensively. I think City have to answer that question, whether he's figured that out. And I do agree that Chelsea is the outlier. If we get the Club World Cup, Chelsea, the game against PSG, consistent, if we get the consistency, you just never know. I think it's unlikely they go all the way. I think Arsenal and Liverpool are going to go, to be honest, I think that's going to be like a head-to-head. And it's whether the other 2 can really step up. Because I think those 2 now have, in terms of the squad, I think they've just sort of stretched away a little bit in terms of quality. Even from City, who've got a big squad. And again, one of the other questions is he got the appetite, the City manager, after last year, where he was smarting from the criticism, particularly when they went on that bad run. He was excuses and talking about big squads and talking about this, that, and the next thing, when he got to the cup final, which they lost, he talked about, you know, how many semi-finals, how they'd done this and they'd done that, and he seemed to be on the back foot. And it's whether he has the desire and appetite, because the players will sense it. The players in the dressing room will sense it if he doesn't believe, Guardiola this is, that he can get them back to the top. And I know they got Rodri back, I know they've signed quite a few players, but players will sense it if he's got his own doubts. And that's going to be, I think, one of the big questions.
Frank, do you agree with Mark? This is going to be the greatest title race ever?
No, I don't think so, because in the past we have had a lot of races, and that was absolutely fantastic, and especially with Manchester United and Arsenal. We tried to cope with the situation with Chelsea. I remember one year we finished 3rd. It was very hard because they mostly never lost a game, and it was always, you know, head-to-head. I understand Mark when he says it's a 4-team race. It could be a 5, you know. Don't forget Newcastle. What's going to happen to Aston Villa?
Frank,
it can be.
What are you doing?
It can be very interesting.
Right. Look. No. What evidence have you seen that Liverpool and Arsenal are going to get so much weaker that the likes of Aston Villa and Newcastle are going to get involved in this title race as well?
Well, you know what? We were expecting Manchester City to be absolutely fantastic last season. I don't know if you saw what happened. So why don't you think it's possible that other teams don't have the performances that we are expecting, and why some other team like Newcastle or Aston Villa cannot cope with the situation and deal with them and create that six-team race? Why not? Why not? We saw last season that was an exceptional. We are looking for consistency. We don't know who's going to be consistent so far. So I'm saying everything is possible. And if you are putting Newcastle out of the race where they are in the Champions League, I think you don't show too much respect to that club. So well, I think Newcastle can be in the race.
I think the problem is the last time they were in the Champions League, it really affected. Well, it seemed to really affect the league form. I think it's all. I think we're in a three-horse race potentially, and there could be an outside runner in fourth in Chelsea. I think it's unlikely. The rest of them, as tidy as they are, and as good a managers as they have, they're going to be scrapping to try and get back into that top five. But I think potentially we have, depending on City and Chelsea on the outside, potentially 2/3, and at the very best, particularly early on, 4 teams in it.
Meanwhile, Mark, you take a look at rumours that Manchester City may have a different goalkeeper to start the season. What's going on with Ederson?
Well, Ederson's been unsettled now for 18 months. He was close to going to Saudi Arabia last summer, that the deal fell through, and he was never happy last season. And it's pretty clear that he wants to go. I know he said publicly during the Club World Cup he's happy to stay, but there's still noises there that he wants to move on. And Galatasaray are keen. What surprises me is that it's a potential fee, €3 million, which is about £2.5 million. I can't get my head around why it's such a low fee, but he's out of contract next year. And City are now speaking to Burnley about James Trafford. They sold him to Burnley, I think, 2 years ago with a buyback clause. And they want to trigger that clause, which would mean that another Newcastle target goes somewhere else, because obviously James Trafford, well, I imagine, would go back to Man City, especially if he's the number one. So they are making serious efforts to sign James Trafford. He's a very good goalkeeper, England goalkeeper. And I think it spells the end of Ederson, who's been a massive part of the success in the Guardiola. So without Ederson, it'll be interesting to see how they play, because his distribution with his really long kicking has been a big part of their success.
It has, but there was.
Yeah.
It has, Augie, but there just seems to. And Ortega played quite a stretch last season. Ederson was in and out. I think he was injured, but he was also dropped. But it just also seemed, although his distribution generally is pretty good, as you said, it just seemed to me that his decision making in the last 18 months has been very scratchy at best. You know, his shot saving's not as good, I don't think. His decision making about coming out and sweeping up isn't as good. And I just think there's too many mistakes in there, and I think maybe that's why Guardiola sees it that way as well.
Frank, what do you think? Ederson leaving, how much of an impact does that have on the back four?
Well, that would be first an end of an era, because when Guardiola signed Ederson, he changed the game. Everybody wanted to press Manchester City. He found a goalkeeper capable of launching long ranges and long-range pass, and that made the difference. And that guy changed the game and even changed the football. And because of Guardiola. So if he goes, I will feel that it's another era starting. Now I'm kind with Craig in a way that for the past year and a half, I don't find the same Ederson that I used to see, with the guy sharp, knowing exactly what he was doing, technically easy. He was more wandering at some point, creating doubts to his teammates. So, well, it's not the reason why defensively Manchester City has been so weak, because in the middle of the park and the back four, they were in there. But he had a little bit a part of responsibility of that last season bad results.
Meanwhile, Mark, you've been writing at length about Luis Diaz over the last few weeks. Any developments there? And if he goes, will Liverpool have the funds for a replacement?
Well, again, Luis Diaz is one of these players that's been unsettled for a while. We know that his contract's up in 2 years. Nothing's on the table yet, and Bayern Munich are very keen. Liverpool have rejected a bid from Bayern Munich, but I think it's fairly clear that Liverpool need to get some money in. I think Darwin Núñez will go. Federico Chiesa will probably go. I think if Diaz goes as well, obviously they're bringing in Hugo Ekitike. That is nearly done. I still think there's some mileage in Alexander Isak. I still think that there's something there that Liverpool can pursue. the 6 weeks to the window closes. He didn't play at the weekend. Eddie Howe made some strange comments about it, resting him for a game that, it's a pre-season friendly. Anyone can play in a pre-season friendly and not have it distract them too much. So Liverpool are really keen on Isak. I do think there's some mileage in that. And obviously, if they can get rid of Diaz and Darwin Núñez, that'll bring in about 120 million pounds. I think Isak could be done, but obviously Newcastle are insistent he's not for sale.
Wow. Your mate and Isak?
My mate, what?
Ekitike.
Yeah, Ekitike and Isak. Wouldn't be bad, would it?
That's a big,